Welcome everybody to the Oulton Park circuit and the Maximum Networks Goodyear Touring Car Trophy and TCR UK. The cars heading out onto the circuit for a 15-minute qualifying session they're on today, and it's set to be an absolute belter. We've got the biggest grid of TCR cars that we've possibly ever had in the championship, and a circuit that has appeared on the calendar that this championship's been around, always produces some really good close racing. And we're expecting the same again here today. It's the second time the cars have been out on circuit. They had a practice session topped by Jack Constable, the number 11 car on your screen right now. Jack Constable fastest in that session with a 1:27.9. Alex Morgan was second on his return to the championship, driving a Cupra now, but we've previously seen him race with us in a Renault Megane. Dan Kirby, winner last time at Brands Hatch, was third fastest. So some new names maybe looking to challenge for victories and podiums over the course of the two races a bit later on today. Andy McEwen once again up here in the commentary box, joined as ever by Paul O'Neill. And Paul, Brands Hatch seems like a long time ago now actually. It was only a few weeks in reality, but we enjoyed a trio of dramatic, entertaining, unpredictable, but really, really good races at Brands Hatch. One of, if not the best race that this championship has ever seen, and I'm really hoping that that is now a sign of things to come through the rest of the season.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry, mate, I wasn't really concentrating, and I was looking through my Instagram messages. I'm seeming to get I'm getting battered here by loads of young people just giving me grief. But anyway, mega, wasn't it? Last time out, Brands Hatch, absolutely amazing. We had outside of Paddock Hill Bend overtakes going on. Bradley Kent, wasn't it, that seemed to be side by side with Max Hart all the way around the Brands Hatch Indy circuit, which was fantastic. And yeah, great to be at Oulton Park, proper tin top action. A lot of cars out there, a lot of cars, and they seem to be in a train, don't they? The two brothers, Lewis and Bradley. Oh, just as you go through screen, the 44 there, he had the rear rotating on the exit. Look at these two cars, they look fantastic. But as you were saying offline to me, it isn't really where the Hyundai can actually stretch its legs. They seem to be caught, don't they, by the Cupras. And
has always had a really good chassis. The Hyundai strength has often been straight line speed at Oulton Park. Although it's got a fast, it's got a high average speed circuit, there aren't really that many straights, really, worth mentioning. It's quick corners and undulating sections between those corners. And yeah, perhaps the Cupra, certainly in practice, it was a Cupra lockout at the front. We had Cupra's first, second, third, and fourth. The top Hyundai was Irish driver for second place in the championship, as again the Kents are getting very wayward, heading out of Nickel corner there on possibly still slightly cold tyres. But yeah, Max Hart battling for second in the championship, not really the position that he wants to be battling for. He's targeted the title this year. The championship though is being led by Lewis Kent, number 38, the reigning champion in TCR UK, twice a winner this year, but rarely off the podium is Lewis. But both he and Brad feeling a bit under the weather apparently at the moment, so don't necessarily expect them to pick up where they left off at Brands Hatch last time. Lewis Kent has a 50-point advantage. Bear in mind there are 25 points available for a race win, so it's a big cushion that Lewis has over three drivers that really couldn't be any closer together. His younger brother Brad is second in the championships, Max Hart is third on 106, and Dan Kirby is fourth on 105. So although Lewis has this big championship lead behind him, it couldn't be much tighter.
Yeah, definitely. It isn't really tightened up, isn't it? Like you say, from second downwards. But it's definitely Lewis Kent that needs to just be careful this weekend and have, like what Dad said to us, maybe a bit of damage limitation and make sure that he just gets there with some points and not panic too much about being right up the front and just get through the weekend. A couple of new names like you're mentioning and a couple of really good names. Really good. Alex Morgan for one. I've done the UK and he is very, very fast. I wouldn't be surprised if he had a race win sometime this weekend.
Yeah, he was right on it in practice, and Alex didn't really get to see the Megane in this championship, which he was also racing over in Europe at the same time, but in a Cupra now that's maybe a tad more reliable, I think he could be a real threat. I agree with you. We've also got the return of Hugo Cook in a newly liveried Audi RS3 TCR. Danny Crevet is back with Motorsport Racing in their Hyundai. Andy Wilmot has gone and bought himself a new Cupra, which has a distinctive new blue livery on it for this weekend. That's the number 21 car. Jack Depper moves up from the VW Racing Cup into Tim Docker's old VW Golf. You've got Chris Wallace back again. We've got Alex Kite, as you said. Mark Smith, who's a name that is new to this championship. But Mark Smith, I am fairly sure, and I'm going to try and find this out later on today, is the same Mark Smith who races historic HSCC. I think he races a Laguna, an ex-Jason Plato Renault Laguna, if memory serves, so he's a pretty handy front-wheel drive driver as well. And Jamie Sturgis, who's making his debut at this level of racing, but has been racing that Cupra TCR for a number of years. So lots of new names, but not just making up the numbers, Paul. They're here to race, and they're here to see just how they stack up against people who, in some cases, have been doing this for a number of years.
To them, how good they are, because the top people in this are very, very, very fast, and it's good to see. I know these are early times, and they will dip quite low into these times, but I tell you, he's looking very fast, and he seems to be getting on with it. He's actually Jack is looking super fast. He's up in 4th place at the minute, and he's going quicker and quicker, and his split times are only, well, a few tenths off Bradley Kent, who's on pole at the minute. So he gets on, because I've driven that Golf TCR quite a lot. The original owner, Tim Docker, I coach him quite a bit, so I know how good that car is, and I know if Jack gets his going to be in for it. A lot of cars coming in for crossing tyres, as in diagonal crossing, so the fronts will go to the rear, and just make sure that they're up to temperature across the whole chassis, but also pressures as well are being checked, especially on Hugo Cook's car, who's just come in. Hugo, another standout performance of people now coming in the pits, as we can see Kite just getting out there in front, wasn't he? I'll tell you what, that was pretty close. That Morgan nearly had his nose chopped off in the pit lane.
Yeah, it's a bit congested down there, isn't it? We're seeing on the screens now Max Hart having those tyres changed or rotated from one end of the car to the other and one side as well. They put the fronts on the rear and the left-hand side tyres often on the right as well. So Dan Kirby, I was oohing and ahhing at him a moment or two ago because he dived up the inside of Jamie Sturgis at Lodge at the time, the second fastest. He's been pipped again now though, because Bradley Kent, number 44, is fastest in the session at 28.6 for him, 7/10 quicker than his brother Lewis at the moment. Pointing out though, Paul, these times are still best part of a second off what they did in practice on older rubber, we think. Now, the track temperature's going up, that won't be helping lap times, but I still think there's a big...
Get on with it, because you've only got 6 minutes and 45 seconds left, and I'll be really honest with you, I think you're going to see faster times as we see purples and greens being lit up on the screen, but I don't... Sometimes you find with brand new tyres on, if the you'll only get to the speed that you did on old tyres, and it's a real head-scratching moment, as now we're going to see Kent come across, Bradley Kent comes across. Ah, right, okay, so now Lewis is catching him up, so he's only 3/10 off, so it's a brotherly lockout. No, Constable.
That Constable then into second, then Brad Kent on pole by 84 1,000ths of a second at the moment. Constable second, Lewis Kent third, Will Butler is fourth, going well, and Dan Kirby fifth, Max Hart is sixth and heading back out of the pit lane now with 6 minutes left on the clock, which means that now every car, with the exception I think of the Audi of Hugo Cook, is out on track.
Winfield takes the pole. What a lap. Well, that's gone straight through the chicane then.
Yeah.
I was going to say 13.5 seconds quicker than anyone else, which, to be fair, I thought a time attack car
did make me do a bit of a double take then, but if you... dear me, Lewis Kent hopping over those curves. If you cut the chicane down at his lops, which is very, very easy to do, then, yeah, your lap time, of course. Winfield, though, has been reinstated back to second, hasn't he? 128.604, 4/1000ths of a second slower than Bradley Kent. So Winfield did still have a good lap at some point then.
He did, and I'm just looking at his first sector, which is actually as quick as any of the top 5 runners. So he's definitely got some pace in the car, but he's 3/10 down in the second sector. And he's actually gone across. It's only a few thousandths off, isn't he? So it's definitely happening there for them. Dan Kirby is now up to 5th. A lot of the guys finishing them off. Butler is up into 4th. So that's Ent now back on pole. That's good effort.
Yeah, 28.3 is still 4/10 off practice, but that is... oh no, he's beaten now by Jack Constable. Well spotted, Paul. So Jack Constable now goes to the top of the time. 6/6, nearly 2/10 quicker than Lewis Kent, who is a quarter of a second then quicker than Brad Kent in 3rd. Winfield down to 4th and Will Butler 5th. So where is Max Hart? Hart is down in 8th position at the moment then. That isn't great for Max's championship bid.
Alex Morgan,
oh,
P2.
Yes. Wow, and only missing out on pole by 5/100ths of a second. So Morgan now, number 5, half a tenth away from pole position with a purple second sector as well there.
Look at Constable though, Constable on a purple first sector. So Jack Constable in the number 11 is on an absolute flyer. So he's coming into sector 2. So he's going to be going up Clayle somewhere, isn't he, in sector 2? But they're all purples and greens now. We're starting to see the tyres starting to work in that window. The good starting to really up its game. I'll tell you what, that sector 2 not very quick for Constable. As we can see, there's a lot of cars, isn't there, all about. You can see the Kent brothers coming down into Lodge as well. Sturgis is holding a few of them up in the 99 Ram Air car, so a lot going on. But I tell you what, if Alex Morgan has got some space somewhere, he could be having a good sector 2, but I'm not too sure whereabouts he is. Oh my word, 2 purples. Alex Morgan is going to be coming down to Lodge out of Druids, and he's going to be on pole.
Constable comes through, moves the goalpost slightly then with the new fastest lap of 28.07, but Alex Morgan is due with us any moment now. He's just coming up through Lodge Corner, I think, and Alex Morgan could be on a lap that is good enough to put him on pole position on his return to the championship. Over the top of the hill comes Andy Wilmot. Here then is Morgan, the white car behind him, comes across the start-finish line. Is this good enough for pole position? It is by 3.5 tenths, so 1:27.72. Alex Morgan is fastest on provisional pole then, with 3 minutes still to go.
Wow, absolute boom of a lap that one, isn't it? And now Constable is green in the first sector, but he's a 10th off, so this is going to be difficult for Jack Constable to respond. Is anyone else going to respond? They're all kind of yellow times there in the middle sector, so probably the tyres get so energised as they're going round the circuit. They really struggle. As we're on board, I'm watching Alex Kite in that Opel Astra as he exits the hairpin at Island Bend. But yeah, it does look like maybe Constable has lost some tyre performance in the middle sector. So I think we have a pole man that is not going to be touched.
Let's see then. Constable should be with us shortly. Dan Kirby's going across the line now. Max Hart, we're following on the screens, by the way, has moved up into 6th position now. So he did find a couple of places on his previous lap. But this lap, well, the first sector wasn't a personal best. The middle one was, though. So Hart might be about to improve again here. Needs to find a 10.5 near enough to get himself into 5th position.
Yeah, we were just following Jack Depper around then, and Jack is actually looking like he's going to go up the times. Here's Jack Depper in the 33. This is coming out of Lodge, so up and over the strike. Let's see where this puts Depper, because I think he's actually got a really decent time in him here. Oh, and he doesn't actually move, so I'll just shut up.
What do you know? Hey, Max Hart does, though. He goes 4th quickest, so he's onto the 2nd row of the grid now and splits the Kents. Now, that makes me rub my hands with glee, because put Max Hart in a Kent sandwich and you know there are going to be fireworks. There's no love lost between those two teams. Lewis Kent is 3rd, Max Hart 4th, Bradley Kent in 5th place. For the championship, though, this isn't looking half bad for Lewis Kent. He's out-qualifying his nearest rivals and on a track that car should not be particularly well suited to, on a weekend where neither of the Kents are really operating at 100%. That is a pretty impressive effort.
That's a really good effort, isn't it? I tell you, PMR guys, Power Max Racing are going to be so pleased with this front row. But that is some time, that 3.5 tenths up the road. It must be so hot up there. 27.7 being the fastest time with new tyres. It must be really hot.
Yes, Max Hart, by the way, green in the first sector. We're following on the screens here the number 5 car of Alex Morgan, though, that is your provisional pole sitter with 35 seconds left on the clock. He's pushing on again here. He's got the Alex Kite Opel ahead of him. Yes, it is an Opel, not a Vauxhall, because that car has come from Italy, where it did, I think, 1 TCR race and then spent the rest of its time doing hill climbs and things. So it's had a pretty easy life, actually, by touring car standards, and that car is really well.
Let's not talk about Italy.
Yes, I believe there was. They beat us at the tennis or something, didn't they, last week?
You can grow up, mate. You just wind your neck in. Let's not speak about football. There's much of a crossover, actually, between football and motorsport. It's just because I'm from the Northwest. I'm more into football than racing cars. I think this is pretty boring, to be fair, racing cars. But look at that. The checkered flag is out. Your pole man, I am sure of it, is Alex Morgan, and it does look like nobody will be able to respond. But I think Lewis Kent and Bradley will be quite happy with that 3rd and 4th place performance.
Yes, because Brad jumped ahead of Max again at the end there, so Brad Kent knocks Max Hart down onto the 3rd row. That could prove significant as well. Hart, though, has just started a new lap and is purple in the first sector, so Max Hart, right at the death, has found a bit of pace. So let's see if we can find him. He's somewhere in the middle part of the lap. The Hyundai number 101, when his 2nd sector time comes in, we'll be able to see whether or not he's going to be able to challenge maybe for pole position, but at the very least get himself ahead of those pesky Kents with whom he's had this season-long rivalry.
I tell you what, this is going to be very interesting. No, he's quite far off. He's lost 4 tenths in the 2nd sector, so he'll be coming into Druids now, which is the 2nd to last corner, and then he's going to be exiting Lodge probably in about 20 seconds time. So that's Hugo Cook, and Hugo is coming out of Lodge, and I'm sure we'll probably see the last bit of the lap that isn't going to be quick enough in my eyes from Max Hart, but it's going to put him up, isn't it? It's quite tight in that sector, so Is he coming across the line? Now that's him, isn't it, in the 101?
Third place for Max Hart, and that, honestly, is almost as good as pole because he's ahead of those Kents now, so he is the top Hyundai. That was a good effort.
That was an exceptional effort. Well pleased for Max. He come in and he made a change. There was a change made on that car. As he come down the pits, I was thinking, is that change going to be good enough? But excellent stuff, that. What a result. Perfect.
Right. Yes, absolutely. Paul is going to dash now down to the end of the pit lane to have a word with our pole sitter, though, who is Alex Morgan. Gets his first ever pole position in the championship by, in the end, just over a quarter of a second from Jack Constable, number 11, second. Number 101, Max Hart, was third, and the highest placed, really, of our championship contenders on the grid, with the points leader, Lewis Kent, fourth quickest, number 38, number 44, Brad Kent was fifth, 37, Bruce Winfield, solid effort again there in sixth. Bruce was really unlucky, actually, to miss out on a podium finish at Brands Hatch after a late race 3 clash with Darren Lewis. Well, 2 clashes, actually, with Darren Lewis, the second of which put Winfield into the wall and out of a race that he could have won, actually, up until that point. Will Butler, then, number 70, is 7th, former rally driver, with Dan Kirby, number 4, in 8th place. Darren Lewis, by the way, is in the only non-TCR car on the grid. Darren Lewis in the NGTC spec Mercedes, as we're getting the results now, in fact, on the screen. So Morgan with the pole, Constable second, Max Hart was third, with Lewis Kent and Bradley Kent together 4th and 5th on the grid. Bruce Winfield was 6th, Will Butler 7th, Dan Kirby 8th, Darren Lewis 9th, as I said, in that NGTC Mercedes, and Alex Kite in 10th. But remember, that's his first outing, really, in anger in the Opel Astra. Jack Depper, also making his TCR debut, was 11th, ahead of Andy Wilmot 12th. Hugo Cook in the Audi 13th, a bit further back than we might have expected, with Danny Crevet 14th in the Motor Swan Hyundai. Jamie Sturgis on his TCR UK debut was 15th quickest, and Mark Smith 16th of the 16-car field. A great grid of cars. We've got those 16 cars out there. This is certainly looking promising for the future of TCR competition in the UK, and it's so nice to see more and more new names getting themselves up there and winning races. We've had I think it's 5 different winners that we've had from the first 7 races this year, with Lewis Kent a double winner, having won race 2 at Silverstone and at Brands Hatch as well. The other double winner is his brother Bradley Kent, and then we've had a further 3 drivers that have won races, but a whole host of others that have had podiums. And this weekend, with so many new drivers coming in, or returning drivers coming in, certainly in Alex Morgan, a great example of that, it's just going to be fascinating to see whether they can maybe pull off another win. And of course, that can have an influence on those that are competing in the full championship, because it takes points away from them. And the championship battle between the Kents, Max Hart and Dan Kirby, could be affected quite easily by the arrival of some of the drivers on the scene. Right then, our pole sitter is down in the pit lane then with Paul O'Neill.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Alex Morgan, where have you come from? Have you been in that car because you're not sweating? And what is that outfit you've got? It looks amazing.
Yeah, I've been hiding for 21 months away from the racetrack, unfortunately. So, yeah, just really pleased to be back. Obviously, this is fantastic weather, massive crowd, so I'm delighted to be back. And obviously, that was really, really well done. So, great to the team, PMR, for getting everything sorted out on relatively short notice. And as you can see, I'm completely bare here with no sponsor or anything on at the moment, so bit of a last-minute thing.
Mate, I'm so impressed, because I looked at the sheets and I was like, oh, Alex is here, because I haven't seen you for like a couple of years, have I? So obviously you've got great heritage in everything you've done. Championship winner in tin tops, mate, but coming back here, you've just like blown the field to pieces.
Well, I was really happy with the testing that we did yesterday, and it was my first running in the dry since October 2019. So it felt like it all came back to me relatively quickly, and I havened been here since probably you driver coached me in SV and Clio's in 2014. So it was nice to get back here, and to be quick from the outset was brilliant. And I had to carry that new driver ballast, which I thought this is going to happen to me a little bit. But to be honest, the car felt absolutely amazing, and I did a slightly different quality run to other people, and it just worked absolutely brilliantly. So I couldn't be more happy. So that's one box tick now.
Top man. Well, listen, we'll leave it there, fella. I'll come and catch you in a bit in the paddock, because that was an astounding effort there,
brilliant.
fella.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Back to you, Andy. I think we've got another championship going out there that's not as good as TCR.
Yes, thank you, Paul. I'm quite grateful the people around the circuit didn't hear what you just said to me. TCR racing coming up a little bit later on then. The first of our TCR races is due to get underway at 1:35. So hopefully you'll join us back on the social media pages for more great action here from Oulton Park.